Hey guys, Constance here. Welcome back to A Good Life Farm. So I'm bringing you into the kitchen today to make a super easy soup. You know, the weather has turned cool, and when the weather turns cool, I know I really crave soups. Now, personally, I can eat soups all year long, but you really want them when the weather turns cool. Now, the soup that I'm going to make is a nice, thick, and rich soup. Super creamy, super cheesy, cheddar broccoli soup. And this is super easy to make. It only takes a little bit of time to make it, and so I'm going to bring you through the process. So the first thing I'm going to need is some red onion. I'm going to need about 1/2 cup of diced red onion, and I'm not going to need this entire onion. I'll only need maybe half of it. Red onions tend to be pretty big onions, and so a lot of times I'll only use about half of one for a meal. Sometimes even less than that, depending upon how big the onion is. And while I'm dicing up this onion, I've got 3 tablespoons of butter melting over there in my Dutch oven. So my butter is melted, and I'm going to go ahead and toss my onion in here and let this start cooking. You're generally just going to cook the onion until it's tender, and you want to cook it on kind of a medium-low heat because you don't want the onions to get all brown or anything like that. You just want them nice and tender. So now while my onion is cooking and getting tender, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut up my broccoli. I have a head of fresh broccoli here, and the amount you're going to use is really a matter of preference. If you want a lot of broccoli in your soup, you could use 2 heads of broccoli. It really is just a matter of what you like. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cut all of the florets from the stems here. And I'm just going to cut these or break these up into little sections. And by the way, you can also make this soup with frozen broccoli. You do not have to use fresh if you don't have any on hand. A lot of times I'll have some bags of frozen broccoli in the freezer, and this is a recipe you could just throw together with some of that as well. Now, if you wanted to, you could also take the stem here and put it through a food processor and shred it and toss this into your soup as well, because the stem is completely edible. And I'm basically just breaking these up into kind of bite-sized pieces. I'm actually going to save my great big stem as a rabbit treat, because now that winter is getting here and things aren't as green and lush out there, the rabbits will always appreciate something like this. So my onion is nice and tender, and so now I'm going to add in the next ingredients. I'm going to sprinkle in 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Grab my whisk here, and I'm going to whisk the butter and the flour and the onion all together. So I'm just going to let this sit for just a minute and let that flour start to get a little bit bubbly. Next, I'm going to add in my liquids. We're going to put in 2 cups of beef broth. Whisk that together real quick. Then we'll add in 2 cups of milk. And 1 cup of half and half. We'll add in a little bit of salt and pepper, about half a teaspoon. Oh, I need more peppercorns. About a half a teaspoon or so of each. And now we're going to let this cook together until it just begins to boil and thicken a little bit. And we're going to stir this pretty frequently because it is a milk base and we don't want it to scald. So now that this is bubbling, I'm going to go ahead and turn this down to low. And I'm going to keep stirring because I don't want that creamy mixture here to scald on the bottom of my pot. And I've got 2 cups of sharp cheddar cheese. Now my original recipe when I first started making this used a lot more cheese than this, but I have found that if you use a sharp cheddar cheese, you get plenty of cheesy flavor and you don't need as much cheese. So 2 cups, and I'm going to stir this and let it melt all together. And while I'm stirring this, I'm going to add in my broccoli. We're going to stir this all together, and broccoli cooks really, really quickly. And so now I'm just going to let this cook for a couple more minutes, and I'm going to stir it pretty frequently, again because of this creamy mixture. And then in just a couple minutes, my broccoli will be cooked and the soup will be ready. All right, there you go. That is how you make this super easy, cheesy cheddar broccoli soup. And this is really good when you serve it with some nice crusty bread, just to get up all of that cheesy goodness. I mean, it's almost like a cheese sauce that you would put on nachos or something. It is just delicious. And you could add a pinch of cayenne pepper to this if you wanted to, just to give it a little bit of kick. But super easy and a great way to get kids to eat their vegetables. I don't know any kid who doesn't like cheesy vegetables. So if you would like to make this recipe, I have the updated version of it on my website. So I will put a link to that down below if you are watching this anywhere other than my website. So thanks for joining me here again in the Homestead Kitchen. My name is Constance at A Good Life Farm, and I'll talk to y'all next time.